Hey, what's going on, summoners? My name is Addict, and I'm a 4-time Diamond player who has reached the top 1% of the NA ladder playing support in League of Legends. I consider myself one of the best Nami players on the NA server, and therefore, in this video series, I'll be going over everything you need to know about how to play the support champion, Nami. I'll be releasing a new video each month on how to play Nami, covering topics such as abilities, items, runes, and playstyle, along with other tips and tricks. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming Nami content. In this video, I'll be going over each of Nami's abilities in detail and how you can optimally use them throughout the game. If you're able to master Nami's abilities, I guarantee that you will be able to climb to at least Platinum and possibly even Diamond. First off, let's quickly review the names of Nami's abilities. Nami's passive is Surging Tides, Nami's Q ability is Aqua Prison, Nami's W ability is Ebb and Flow, Nami's E ability is Tidecaller's Blessing, and Nami's ultimate ability is Tidal Wave. Nami's passive Surging Tide grants all of Nami's ability nearly 100 bonus movement speed to allies decaying over 1.5 seconds. Movement speed is arguably the most important stat in the game, making it one of the strongest supportive passive abilities. Providing extra movement speed to your teammates helps them more easily engage onto key targets or retreat from a teamfight during disengage. You will usually be proccing this passive with Ebb and Flow, your W ability, or Tidecaller's Blessing, your E ability, since they are targeted spells you can use on yourself or allies. Do note that you can also use your Bubble or Q ability to provide your teammates with a movement speed buff as well. I wouldn't recommend using Bubble as your first option to proc Nami's passive, as it is usually better to use your only hard CC basic ability on an incoming enemy. Lastly, if your allies are within your Tidal Wave ultimate ability, this movement speed buff is doubled, making you and your allies receive over 200 bonus movement speed. This significantly helps your allies to engage on key targets in teamfights. Nami's Q ability is Aqua Prison, also known as Bubble. This is arguably Nami's most difficult ability to use, so you have to be quite thoughtful when throwing a bubble. If you miss this ability, you will lose a lot of pressure in laning or teamfights, and the enemy will know that they can capitalize on your mistake. It is Nami's only form of hard CC out of her 3 basic abilities. Holding your bubble can sometimes be more useful than throwing it out, as you keep the threat of your CC ability in your pocket. When you do need to use it, a great way to ensure that you can increase your chances of landing a bubble is to throw it from Fog of War, so that the enemy will have less time to react to the bubble. You can also try to throw your bubble when you know the enemy ADC is going for a last hit, especially on a cannon, and is locked in auto animation. Alternatively, you can also try to first slow down the enemy with your E ability before throwing your bubble. For example, when you auto an enemy, you want to self-cast E on yourself to slow the enemy from dodging your bubble. Additionally, if you know that your ally has an easier point-and-click CC ability, like a Twisted Fate Gold card or a Rammus Taunt, you can extend the CC duration with a follow-up bubble. Generally speaking, it is a lot easier to bubble an enemy as a follow-up CC ability rather than a pure engage tool. However, in scenarios where there is no guaranteed CC available on your team, Nami's Bubble is still a great way to deny the enemy from following up on enemy engage. Using Bubble to simply block the enemy ADC or enemy team's path from following up can still create a lot of high value regardless if it lands. Not every missed bubble can be considered a zoning bubble, but the concept of zoning bubbles is a real thing. Remember that the bubble not only acts as a stun, but the enemy will also be treated as knocked up, which can be utilized by an ally's ability such as Yasuo's ultimate. An important tip with this ability is that the travel time of Q is not related to the distance you throw a bubble. If you throw a bubble far, it will take the same time for the bubble to land as if you decide to bubble close to you. The total time it takes from the start of cast time until the bubble lands is 1 second, so if you're trying to use Aqua Prison as a first engage tool, try to predict where the enemy will be within 1 second. Lastly, Nami is very squishy, so it can be dangerous to check unwarded bushes. Since Aqua Prison is a low-cost spell of only 60 mana, I like to use this ability to check if there is anyone sneakily hiding in Fog of War. Throwing a bubble in an unwarded bush really can save lives. Nami's W ability is Ebb and Flow. This is the ability you will want to max first, as it provides immediate healing for you and your allies. As a support, it is unlikely you will reach 200 AP, which means each subsequent bounce will reduce its effectiveness. Ebb and Flow is a fairly high cost ability, meaning you want to try your best to get at least 1 bounce off the initial target to maximize either healing or damage. It is one of the highest mana abilities in the early game, and you can quickly drain your mana pool if you use this ability too frequently. This means that before level 6, you will want to use this ability strategically in scenarios where you can either proc Mana Flow Band or Scorch. However, once you have completed at least 2 mana items along with a fully stacked Mana Flow Band, you can almost use this ability on cooldown if you see an ally is at low health. Ebb and Flow is an incredible ability that keeps your teammates healthy while providing them with a small movement speed buff due to your passive. It's a decent ability to win small trades during the laning phase, since you can damage an enemy and then heal yourself for any returning trade damage. If you want to avoid minion aggro, you can also W yourself first and let the bounce deal damage. This requires very precise knowledge of how large your bounce range is, so you may end up not getting the bounce off and getting an inefficient W usage instead. Lastly, you can also use Nami's W ability in conjunction with Nami's E ability to proc a slow on an enemy champion. Nami's E is Tidecaller's Blessing. This is an ability you will want to max second. It provides either you or your ally with 3 orbs of extra damage, which also applies a small slow proc for 1 second. Unless you are trying to throw a bubble from fog, you should try to lead with an E auto or an EW before throwing a bubble. Nami's E is unique in that the slow ability has no cast time. You can use E in the middle of your ally's abilities or auto attacks to gain its effect. It's also a great ability to speed up your allies if they are getting chased for a low mana cost. You can use this ability on cooldown when trying to get back to lane or when roaming to increase your movement speed around the map. You can be quite generous with the use of this ability in order to provide your teammates with a movement speed buff or damage buff. Since Tidecaller's Blessing can be procced off both abilities and autos, it synergizes very well with champions like Lucian, who can nearly instantly proc all 3 orbs with a Q double auto. In general, Tidecaller's Blessing can be used to proc a bunch of different runes, including Summonary, Electrocute, and Font of Life, as well as different items including Imperial Mandate, Moonstone Renewer, and Chemtech Putrefier. Nami's ultimate ability is Tidal Wave. Her ultimate is an amazing engage tool that not only knocks up and slows enemy in its path by up to 70%, but also doubles your passive movement speed buff for allies. The further the enemy is from where the initial ultimate is cast, the longer they are slowed for by up to 4 seconds. As an engage tool, I try to use it when I know enemies are within a choke point and it is difficult for them to escape. Alternatively, I use this as a follow-up engage tool when a priority target is locked up. Tidal Wave can also be used as a disengage tool if you have a hyper carry on your team who is constantly being targeted by an assassin. Saving one ally can sometimes be more important than engaging on multiple enemies. While the ultimate is traveling, you can always E yourself to apply an additional proc of Tidecaller's Blessing, since every extra bit of damage is helpful. Make sure to follow up the knocked up and slowed champion with a bubble to extend the duration they are CC'd for. One important factor you need to think about is if you're against enemy champions that have a wind wall in their kit, such as Samira or Yasuo or Braum's Shield. Being able to negate your ultimate ability with a basic ability is incredibly frustrating, so try to bait out their wind walls before casting your ultimate if possible. Here's the order I typically use when leveling up my abilities. To finish off this Nami ability video, let's review 3 fundamental combos that have been discussed so far. Combo number 1, E, Auto, Q. You can either E yourself, auto, then throw your bubble, or you can let your ADC auto with an empowered E and land the easy bubble. Combo number 2, E, W, Q. You can E yourself, then W either the target or W yourself and let the bounce slow the enemy target. Following up a slowed target with a bubble is optional. Combo number 3, R, Q. If you'd like to engage or see an incoming enemy, you can throw your ultimate out and follow up with an easy bubble. As you've probably noticed, all of Nami's combos revolve around slowing the enemy to make it easier to land Nami's most difficult skill shot, the bubble. All other advanced combos build off of these 3 basic combos while threading an auto in between when you can. Alright, that's basically everything you need to know about how to use Nami's abilities. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new about Nami, please let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more Nami content. You can also ask me any other questions about Nami when I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/addict8 on Fridays and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. See you later.
Tiltable. Untiltable. With streamers. Untiltable. Untiltable.
That's gonna be, fascinating transition.